And you are now live.
All right. This is Senate Appropriations, and we're continuing to take testimony on the FY 2022 budget. This afternoon, we're hearing from the Agency of Agriculture, and I see Secretary Tebbetts has been waiting patiently. We thank him, and I'm going to let you introduce. I can see you have Diane with you, but there may be others that I can't see on the screen. Probably somebody from your fiscal office. So I'm going to let you introduce your staff. And as you know, we've been on the floor. It's been a long day. We're probably not as detailed in our questions or interest as maybe that you would find in the House. So if you have like budget highlights or any initiatives or things that are somewhat different, we know fee for space, those kinds of things. Costs, personnel costs, et cetera, are experienced across the board. So we would really like you to touch on the high points in terms of the challenges ahead, what think has gone well, and what your budget looks like for 2022. So Secretary Tebbetts, I'm going to let you take it from there. If you need screen sharing, then Chrissy will arrange that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Senator. It's nice to see all of you again. Yes, I'm joined by Diane Bothell. Diane can help with some of our questions, and also our financial director, Amy Mercier, is with us as well. So great to be with you. So a lot, as you know, no news to you, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things happening. Since we introduced our budget to the House, things have already changed a bit. And maybe, Diane, do you want to start with just maybe a high level overview, and we can start going through some of these things and we could touch upon them. One thing I just want to bring up for a highlight, I think you may have already taken care of the governor proposed a $3 million one-time fund for working lands with the base budget. But my understanding is that that proposal is working its way through another budget bill. So I think that's probably the headline in this that's changed from since we proposed it. That particular item, the $3 million program, is moving through another one-time.
No, actually, the 3 million. Well, yes, the 3 million moved through H315, the fast track bill. We passed it out of the Senate today. What we did do is, out of that 3 million, we carved out specifically grants to support the expansion of slaughterhouse capacity in the state, because we hear that that's a very acute need, particularly for smaller animals, not so much for cows, but that would really help support the diversification of ag to deal with the smaller animal slaughter capacity. So that was the only change. The 3 million is there. It's just we wanted to earmark 500,000 for that specific initiative that supports diversification.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the clarification on that. Maybe just these are level funded programs. These are their main general funding programs. We support our fairs with a stipend. We have the 2+2 farm scholarship, VTC UVM partnership there. Farm to Plate. Farm to Plate's been very active with us, supporting a strategic plan with us over the last couple of years. Natural Resource Conservation Council, water quality issues there, farm to school, local food grants, and then the base budget of working lands, not the one-time money, is the same as it was last year at $594,000. So these are mainly the high-profile general fund items, level funded in our proposed budget. Any questions on these particular items?
I want to go back, if you would, to the slide. One of the this obviously, this is in your base budget, is that right?
This is correct.
Okay, so on the farm to school, that provides grants to schools for refrigeration and freezer to accommodate the use of local produce
Yes, it can be used for infrastructure. There's also some programming with it, but most of it is used for infrastructure improvements that use either local food in cafeterias or food programs through educational services through the school system. Also, I believe we've done some work with some also preschool as well in some of these programs in the last couple of years.
All right. I was just trying to connect that with the fact that schools are going to have so much money coming in under ESSER 3, under the rescue plan. I think in total they're getting like 380 million between the different federal bills. So it seems like that could be a real resource to move a lot of schools, that they would have financial capacity to make those kinds of investments that we on a state level would never have been able to make.
So you would you carve out within that, would you funnel the money through the farm to school program, or are you suggesting
No, that money goes directly to schools. I'm just saying the schools have, if they have $380 million, your 171 is fairly modest in the scheme of things. This is an opportunity, I think, for schools to really make a quantum leap in what they need for their infrastructure to support their meal program, their feeding programs. I'm just saying that this is what we've been able to do, 171,000, but you look at it relative to millions of dollars, it does seem like this would be the opportunity for real progress in that area.
Thank you.
So it has nothing to do with, it's more of a commentary on how the 171 relative to I would hope could be accomplished with this new federal money.
I'll have some conversations with Secretary French about that to see where they're at on where, how that money's going through.
One of the things we're doing, is obviously providing that kind of guidance to schools about what's permissible and so forth. But yes, it's to me, that's a suggested, I believe that would be a permissible use. So it's kind of an opportunity for suggestion. So we'll keep going. Working lands. You're on the next slide. I just had you go backwards. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jane, I was wondering about the 2+2 money as well.
That is that's level funded from the year before, Senator.
Yeah, but, what my question is that enough to cover the bill?
Diane, I'm going to defer to you on this one. Diane, this is one of Diane's passions, and she has a close relationship with that program and over the years. Diane, you want to give us some thoughts?
Yes, thank you. Diane Bothell, Director of Administrative Services for the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. The 2+2 Farm Scholarship Program is level funded. There were issues with enrollment last year due to COVID. Their schedule of kids on campus, kids off campus was difficult for those in the program. So we're a little down on enrollment right now. So the funds will be sufficient to meet all the scholarship needs. And this the bill comes in anytime now, this time of year. We have sufficient funds to meet all of the scholarship requirements for the students that are enrolled. They're working hard to improve enrollment. Again, it just is this COVID has been a tough time, as you all know, for all colleges.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll keep going next, unless there are further. Okay, Anson, we can move to the next.
Okay.
Or whoever who's.
All right. We can do here's the development division. And it gives an outline of the working lands, what we've been able to do over the last year with it and what we want to do in the future. Gives you an highlight, and we've already addressed the $3 million change. Go to the next one, Diane. One thing I want to bring your attention to is we have a really exciting program with the help of USDA federal funds, which is helping our dairy sector. The Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center has launched. It's underway. And this takes a look at offering opportunities for dairy farmers to think about things a little bit differently. From that, we've received significant funding with the help of the congressional delegation. The first award was $454,000. And now this year, $1 million. We'll have that allocation will continue, start to do things, think about things a little bit differently. This is a regional approach as part of the USDA program. We're focusing on grazing, worker safety, agritourism. There's also our processor component, marketing, branding, food safety, education, training. And then we're looking at the supply chain, getting more dairy products throughout the Northeast, New England. We have a component about goat and sheep market research. We have a tremendous need now in Vermont with the Vermont Creamery looking for more goat's milk. We have a project underway in Hyde Park, a significant dairy that's transitioned to goats. They are sort of the test case for others that may want to come along if the market allows it. So the Dairy Business Innovation Center is helping with that. So this is a significant, there's only 3 of these in the country, Vermont hosting this one, the other 2 in Wisconsin and Tennessee. So it's been able to leverage some other work that we've been doing, and we're pretty excited about it going forward to give dairy farmers some more opportunities.
Okay.
Do you want to do the crosswalk?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. My screen is popping all around here. Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
is this the one you want us to be on?
Yeah.
Your 22 budget. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought maybe a recap you might want to know. We were blessed to have some money come to agriculture through the CARES Act, through the round 1. We put together an impact statement that talks about where the money went. The feedback, we did a survey from the constituents of where it went. There was a dairy producer, both on the farm and the processor grants. We had working lands dollars, fairs, farm to school, and farmers markets. And this just gives you an outline of the number of awards we did in dairy and the total amount. So 793 awards went to dairy at about $18 million, a little over $18 million. Ag and working lands, 302 awards, 6.7, and down through to the fairs and farm to school and farmers markets. So it gives you an idea of that money that went through and how significant it was at the time for in the late summer and fall to get people through. So they're still standing today. So we certainly appreciate your support in all of this. And we know there's going to be some more other programs coming down the line. We just don't know where they're going to land yet, but we thought we'd share this with you because of how significant it was for the agriculture sector and our appreciation for it.
So we can certainly go through the crosswalk, but I think you all know those kind of numbers. So if there's other things, Secretary Tebbetts, you want to highlight, I picked these myself, and if there's other things you need, please let me know.
Okay. Committee, I need to get a reading, and I can see a couple of people. I assume the Senate Ag Committee has gone through this budget.
No, we're going to next week.
Oh, okay. All right. I know that you've obviously done a lot of work with your grants. Any updates or number of awards? Obviously, this is helpful information.
We can
Questions or general follow-up in terms of sort of the experience with CRF and more detail. I'm just trying to get a read here, and I can't see the committee because of on my screen. It's got the 22 budget summary there. Okay. All right, now I can. Questions, Bobby?
I think the big issue would be, and we'll find this out in the committee next week, but were there any surprises, or were we were we off a lot on any of these programs that was set up in the CARES Fund? Do you think or did it go pretty good and have adequate funds?
I think we were successful, and I was pleased at how it landed. A couple of highlights, we have to keep in mind when these were rolled out, we had the federal guidelines. So it was expenses and losses due to COVID, or, it was losses or expenses related to COVID. So that the parameters were a little big. If we probably had a chance to do it over again, we probably could have had bigger awards in some of the categories. So we could have had, we could have had bigger awards to get more money out the door, but we didn't know. We're kind of, developing this as we went along. But I think the outreach, the response we got, our staff getting that amount of money out the door in such a short period of time, I think was great. We learned a lot from our constituents. We're closer to our constituents than we have ever been because of this. We're talking with them on the phone, we're emailing with them. So we know a lot more about what's out there and what the needs are and what the gaps are and the opportunities are from talking with our producers and our farmers on a really personal level. Diane can speak to daily. She would be talking with farmers on trying to get through these applications, learning about their farm operations, where they're at. We learned that we probably need to do more work with financial literacy and planning, and that's part of what we've been working through. We had a great relationship with the service providers helping to fill out these applications, because at times they were not easy because they were online, a lot of paperwork, documentation to make sure they were within the federal guidelines. But we learned a lot from, it was a great exercise of knowing, where farmers are at and what their needs are. So it was a great exercise also in the fact that we were closer to them now and we know what their real needs are.
Alice?
Can I just ask, I'm wondering just where are farmers at with milk production now and the purchase of milk? I mean, they were so far down because schools closed and restaurants closed. Where are they now?
It still has not recovered. We had a period where it was really, really low, because when every institution closed, that sort of, I want to say it was April to May last year, that was the real difficult. And that's where you saw the plunge. And then we have a couple of co-ops that have also tried to manage the supply and demand as well. So those programs are in effect as well. And it's still not at the cost of production. We still haven't opened up our restaurants. We still haven't opened up our schools and our institutions for that. On the other side, there's been great demand for the basics again. People are baking again. Butter is big. Yogurt's big. Sort of those things that you have in your home, but it's not enough to make up for what was lost in those, coffee shops, et cetera. We're kind of chugging along. USDA is going to announce more programs as well that may be direct payments to our producers. Today, they announced a rollout of some other programs, and I think it's going to be expanded to more of the some of the audience that was not covered under the previous federal programs. But I would say we're just chugging along, right, Diane? We haven't recovered. It's not, it's not dire, but it's not where it should be. I think that's where we are on the price.
What is the price on hundredweight now?
The last month came in about $16.25. So not enough for everybody, but it hasn't rebounded a lot and hasn't really moved. It's been kind of flat for a while. The one thing we did see during the pandemic was, as Anson said, back to basics. We had two farmers pivot. They're still selling milk into the cooperative, but they've started bottling their own milk. One is the Miller Farm in Vernon, and the other is right up on the Canadian border. They couldn't be further apart. Okay. They could not be further apart. One is in Berkshire on the Canadian border, both doing cream line milk from their cattle And they both started with basic equipment, and they've already been back in touch with our dairy regulatory section about expanding. They need another vat pasteurizer so they can bottle and sell more milk. So some positives came out of the pandemic. One of these farms also is now doing their own meat, and their demand has just even up on the Canadian border. It's a trip to go get it, and they're doing really well with both of those products.
That's good.
Okay. Other questions?
Well, no
Senator-
question, just Secretary Tibbetts, I'm shocked that you're not doing, as well as I thought, because my son seems to be consuming more butter than is humanly possible during this pandemic. So we go through butter like nobody's business. So
Yeah.
I thought we were making
Butter.
up for it, but I guess we got more to do.
And butter's healthy for you now too. I mean, we've gone full circle on it now. It's
Oh,
really,
see, my mother was right. Our
Mhm.
major food groups were fat, sugar, and salt.
Yep.
Lived to be 90 something, so it must be right.
I think you're right. I do. I know butter is, and that's a real issue. Vermont Creamery is really, they've got a new line that's launched, and that whole supermarket, everyone making bread again is really kind of held it up. So it's at least doable now. If not for
Yeah.
that, we'd be in real trouble.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments or questions? So there's money for the fairs. We like the fairs. We like 2+2. We glad to know the CRF grants. That was a lot of work, but went out. One thing that we did add in 315 was 250,000, and that was on that soil ecosystem work to support that. So we did put something in there to move that work forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of work on the state level, and with the Climate Council, and also on it's one of the priorities of USDA is to try to figure out some mitigation efforts and soil health, and how farmers can play a positive role in climate change. So I think you're going to see a lot on the federal level as well as the state level.
Although, Senator Sears says PFOA, his raspberries have never yielded better.
That's correct. I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, however, that does actually, I don't know if you work at all with the Agency of Natural Resources. In the Bennington area, there's a zone
Just
of
every day.
contamination. I understand that, but he probably doesn't know about the zone of contamination, which does involve a lot of fields and farmland that you would look at down in the Bennington area. Actually, North Bennington more than Bennington. But if you change, has anyone examined the impacts of contamination? For example, here in my area of the village of North Bennington, in the town of Bennington, the proposal is to create a zone of contamination where you cannot drill for a well, where there is public water supply. And that would change the quality of those lands. And a lot of my neighbors and constituents are worried about their home values and the land values. But if we have that, has there been any thought about what impact these would have on farmland in our area, where you have these contaminated lands? And I don't know if you're familiar with this at all.
I'm not familiar with this particular issue, but I know that our farm division with Kerry and his shop, this is always something that they're working on with, we have a groundwater.
It should probably be coordinated, because
It is.
when we talk about what you can grow, my understanding from former Health Commissioner Chen was you can grow things above ground, that like peppers, tomatoes, raspberries, but things that are grown in the soil could be contaminated by that soil.
I certainly can follow up, and I know Kerry does work with ANR on
Peter
these
Welch
particular.
his department's working on this, and it might be interesting. They're having the comment period ends, I think, April 2nd.
Okay, I will follow up, Senator.
It also would be interesting to know if Dr. Chen, who's no longer health commissioner, if others agree in terms of whether or not you can grow things above ground. None of us seem to have had dire impact from eating the raspberries. So I'm assuming it's okay above ground stuff.
Yeah,
You're operating on that assumption.
I am, but we
Yeah.
stopped, I stopped growing potatoes, radishes and that stuff,
Mhm.
in the ground.
the
Senator Starr.
the bigger issue that we've talked about in committee is what went on over in Maine with heavy metals and contaminants coming out of municipal waste and being spread on farmers' fields. And what we found was that ANR and Ag test soils, all over the state from time to time in regards to that. And things are fine here in Vermont. So we have heard something in regards to that in Ag.
Well, this is from PFLA, Bob.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. No.
Anything else we want to, I guess we're letting you off easy. We've been on the floor all afternoon
Yeah.
and I think people are just worn out and it seems like there's nothing in terms of your budget that is really like a bullseye on it in any stretch. It's keeping work going. And so I'm going to suggest if it's almost 4:00. If we have other questions, if you're going into Ag Committee to get into greater detail, then we'll have an opportunity to get feedback or other questions. Are there, you've been following the House budget and they have done anything we should know about?
Well, I think they may have added some more money to the Working Lands program. My understanding is there might be a $5.7 million program if everything passes that's currently on the table. We've got this, the S315, I think is the number with the 3 million. They may have added 2 million as well. So if you put it all together, it's about a $5.7 million Working Lands program. That's the early read. We haven't had really a chance to do a deep dive in that, but that's the early read on that budget from the House.
I have another question about money.
Sure.
Well, if we find from this early money that we put into slaughter facilities, are you planning on using some of that additional, if there is additional money in Working Lands to help these slaughter facilities expand and modernize so they can put more animals through? Is that where you're planning on helping these people as we move forward with that?
I think that would be up to, as Senator Kitchell said, they have put some language in there to focus on, some of the work there, but that wouldn't prohibit us from using more of the Working Lands money if we needed to, because if the board decided that they needed to do more, they could do that. It's an independent board. We manage the program with our staff, but it is an independent board that makes those decisions, and those, grants come forward based on what the need is on the ground. I do think it's going to take, private financing, which is going to happen, and it's going to take, there may be some additional USDA dollars that the early read on them. Some of those grants are not going to be that big. I had a discussion with USDA on a phone call a couple of weeks ago, and the max grant was $200,000 that someone could use through that. That will help some, but one proposal we had for a retrofit of a plant in Vermont was about $3.5 million, and that would increase the output anywhere from 40 to 50%. So it may take multiple pots of money to make a big impact on, that's just one plant. But I think that will be up to the board, and the board will have to decide if some processes come forward and they want to do some things bigger. But we'll have that carve out that Senator Kitchell said that we can work from, and that will be important as well.
But I think what perhaps Senator Starr is alluding to is we knew the 500,000 was actually only a piece of what the request that we received, which I think was about in the vicinity of $3 million. And that was the one that actually would allow grants up to 750,000, which obviously when you have $500,000, you can't,
You can't do it.
one grant would exceed what you had. I guess we have to look at, do we want to, if we put more money into working lands, or do we put less into working lands and unrestricted and use a bit more money to help fund that plan for the slaughterhouse expansion that was in your $3 million proposal?
My experience going through some of these grant programs over the last year, if you can be flexible, that is the key. And if you can be, keep it flexible, and then things will come up from the bottom of what the need is from the private sector. That's my early read on that. We can work, whatever's delivered to us. I mean, we know there'll be other outside of just meat processing. There'll be other needs as well.
Well, I'm not disputing that. It's just, we know that usually the applications exceed the available money. So if you want to set priorities, and if in fact the view is building slaughter capacity should be one of those priorities, then we would set that priority within not necessarily the independent board setting the priorities, if in fact, in the absence of, which they would do in the absence of some articulation by the legislature.
Yeah, I think in the end, you put the money in, and if someone steps forward with a proposal that really addresses the meat issue, I think they'll have a strong case for that to be funded, whether you earmark a certain component of it or if it's a larger pot of money that we need to do. There's a scoring system, et cetera. So if you can keep it flexible, I think that's always helps, drive the bus a little bit.
Okay, so you're arguing flexibility and not do any further carve out for slaughter facilities.
I think those things will come. I think those things will come forward. I mean, one of our reasons for putting the one-time $3 million in was because we knew the need was there for meat expansion and that's why we know it's going to take more money. So if you fluff up the fund with the $3 million, or if it gets bigger than that, I think keeping it flexible gives us more opportunities than saying it necessarily has to go to something. Because I could be totally wrong. Someone could come together and say, no one could come forward with $500,000. Someone could come forward. I don't want to use this $500,000 for meat, and then I have to use the $500,000. But my gut tells me, seeing the plans that some people have put forward, it's going to take good chunks of money to make a real impact.
All right. Yep. Well, I guess I'm just trying to piece this together. I think the governor on the one time with the list of his 211 million did have money for working lands. There was nothing specific for slaughter facilities. However, at the December meeting of joint fiscal, our failure to move money for slaughterhouses was a point of major contention. So it's kind of hard. It was a priority and top of the list in December, and now it's still. I don't want to give the impression it's not a priority, Senator. It's certainly a priority for us to move this, and I'm not. If you wanted to carve it out and allocate, that's fine as well. But I'm just saying that we can use the $3 million in agriculture, and if I think some believe that we can use the $3 million in agriculture, and it wouldn't take very much
to use it in meat is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand. I guess the question is whether we want to make it somehow come to the top of the list out of the potential grants. But that's a topic that we will defer to our ag committee on
Yeah.
at this point. Okay, other questions? If not, I'm starting my artichokes. I just want you to know.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I'm getting ready. I'm going to vernalize them in April and
What
trick
about
them into
leeks?
thinking that they've slept through a winter.
What about your leeks? Isn't that another one you do?
Yeah, I know. But my problem with my food production is I process it, I wash it, I have it all ready, and then I give it away. And I don't think
Oh.
I don't think that works as a real good business model.
Well, I'm only one town away, Senator.
Yeah,
So
I know.
I could run right over right now.
I know. I love leeks, and I
Yeah.
grow a lot of
Potato leek soup is nothing better.
Yeah, I know. As a matter of fact, I grow my own potatoes, my own leeks, and my own onions. So what more do you need?
That's great.
And still eating them.
Maybe a
Plenty of-
piece of beef now and then.
Plenty of
Yeah.
butter on the top of it. That's good.
Yeah.
Little pat of butter
Uh-huh.
on the top of it. Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, there's nothing like fresh food, particularly the first peas and potatoes. But with that, I'm going to suggest that we call it a day, and people can go think about what they want to cook for dinner. And some of us have got more meetings. I've got 2 more
Yes.
after this, so I'm going to adjourn